Welcome. It's time for a crypto market update. So, going to talk about Bitcoin, big picture. So, cycle top, price targets, how much time's left for this particular bull market. Also going to cover Bitcoin dominance and how that relates to altcoins, what we should be expecting with altcoins going on their really huge final runs. And so, going to talk about what's expected with regards to that as well. First, let's just kind of cover the big picture on Bitcoin. So the actual cycle top targets and how much time is likely left before Bitcoin hits its peak. So I'll keep this part pretty short since I've covered this previously, but let's get into it. So a couple of things I want to look at. One is the balance of power, something that has been 100% accurate for every single cycle, at least at telling us when the top is not in yet. And so I'm going to cover that. But first, let's just take a look at how much time is likely left for this particular market cycle. So here's our current price action leading into where our likely cycle top will be in this red box area. Only leaves us with between 63 days and 161. So we're talking about 2 to 5 or 6 months before the cycle peak is in. So a relatively short period of time. And to expect that it's going to go on much farther than this, I don't think is the best plan of action, because we just don't have the historical data to tell us that it's going to keep running in any significant way after we've reached that point. So if we take a look at this indicator in the past, you can see how accurate this is at predicting the tops. And so the expectation is that we're heading to that red box, which puts us price-wise between about 175,000 and 250,000 at the absolute highest. So 175K reached that price, and we are already at this red box in terms of time, then that's going to be the expected top, or at least very close to the top. I'm not going to be expecting much more significant upside once we've hit that price point, and we're at that kind of timing where we are, about 2 months from now. Don't want to be expecting too much more upside after that from Bitcoin. So to be ready for a topping process, once we reach that red box in a couple months or in a few months, somewhere in this range, time to be cautious. Now, this indicator alone has been very accurate. Typically, after we pull back into this mid-cycle yellow box here, so mid-cycle pullback post Bitcoin halving, we go on our final major run, the biggest run, most aggressive run of every cycle so far. And that's where we're at now. So we've already pulled out of that yellow box. We should be seeing our final major run. Just take a look at all these previous times. Yellow box, major final run, yellow box, major final run, yellow box, major final runs, and yellow box, major final run. So every time post halving, major run into the cycle top, that's where we sit right now, which means this final leg should look something like this. Generally, the path should look something like this green line. Of course, we can go up quickly and then pull back and then go up quickly again, something like that, or it can take any path, but the general action should be following that green line there, which should be aggressive upside action from current prices. So let's also take a look at the balance of power, the thing I was talking about earlier. Balance of power has made a fresh high on the weekly here. So we don't find that at any of these cycles, price has topped once we get a fresh high on balance of power. It always creates a bearish divergence and tops on a much lower high. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So the highest point of balance of power, which is this green and red wave, highest point for the previous cycle was right here, which coincides with this price point. And of course, we do continue running for a few more months after that, now making a lower high before our actual top, bearish divergence there. Here's the highest point on this particular cycle. Actually, it was way back here. Oh no, it looks like it was right around here. But either way, we continue running and we put in a lower high on the balance of power before the real top is in. Let's take a look at this one. Here's our highest point, balance of power. then we go for a major final run and create a bearish divergence very clearly. And then finally back here, you can see the highest point on the bounce power is right here. Yet we continue much higher, create a bearish divergence there before we actually get our top. So the expectation is that, we're getting that fresh high on our balance of power. So we should be seeing a final run that gives us bearish divergence near the top on the balance of power. So some things to look out for timing wise with this red box here, and price wise with this red box, but also confirmation with that bounce of power, putting in some bearish divergence, getting the lower high, starting to get into a bit of a downtrend on bounce of power while we get into that topping process. So that's it for kind of the big picture Bitcoin here. Now let's take a look at the lower time frame. So I want to talk about the recent action that we've seen, and let's zoom in here. So this particular consolidation that we've seen, we had this big flush, which price wise wasn't all that much. It's 12-13% to the downside. Not a huge move to the downside, but why does this look so good? We have to take a look at some data. Let's go over here, take a look at our liquidations, and then compare it to previous liquidation events, what happens when we get a liquidation like this, as well as talk about what happened to the funding, why it's looking so bullish where we stand right now. So shorter term, with this just individual pullback, what we saw right here, we got a huge liquidation flush. As can be seen down here, aggregated liquidations. This little move down was enough to give us our biggest liquidation since all the way back here. So pretty much the beginning of the cycle, around 25K. And that marked the exact bottom. Let's take a look at some similar times where we get similar liquidations. This one's actually bigger, but we'll just put a line across here so you can see some of the other big liquidation events. So here's one of them right here. Here's another one right here. So that coincides with this exact bottom here, which I think is very similar to the type of price action that we're seeing during this particular consolidation. And then the other one right here marked the bottom of this 8-month pullback right here. So these liquidation events during an uptrend like this typically mark major bottoms. And of course, we have our other one down here, which marked the exact bottom as well. So we get these big liquidation events, similar to the one we just got during this consolidation, that marked our bottom, and then we continue much higher out of there. So that is going to be the expectation here in just this local pullback, short term, looking for this to then continue much higher, not revisiting the lows around 90,000. So the expectation, higher low from here, could go down a little bit more, but ultimately expecting that we're going to continue much higher out of this consolidation without revisiting 90K due to not just this liquidation event, but the nature of this consolidation. This is a corrective sideways move after a move up, which normally means we're going to follow through with the trend direction, but also we can take a look at the funding. So funding went extreme when we broke 100K for the first time. So let's zoom in on that specific event. So as you can see, we broke 100K for the first time ever. Congratulations to Bitcoin holders. 100K, broke it for the first time. But what happened when we did that, we went crazy on the funding. So we had a lot of leverage open as soon as we broke 100K. So right at this top here before the flush. And so funding goes extreme. The flush does a fantastic job of getting rid of all those over leveraged longs, not only with the liquidations that we see, but also the funding rates come way back down to extremely healthy levels. And now as we push back up to those highs again over 100K, we don't have that funding. So those traders are now going to be missing out on this next move that I think is going to happen. And, we could go up straight from where we're at right now, or we could pull back a little more, but the idea would be higher than 90K before continuing in a big way to the upside. So we could go just straight up from, this current point, but, just a little bit of a pullback here, and then follow through. Higher than 90K is kind of the idea. and then looking for 120K and beyond for our next trending move. One last little thing for Bitcoin before we get into Bitcoin dominance analysis and talking about altcoin runs. Just want to show a little comparison. So remember I was talking about how I kind of found it very similar, the current price action. Let's just get rid of the indicators. With our liquidation flush from right here, this particular liquidation flush, and this one that we just saw, I see these as very similar consolidations. If you just look at them, they look very similar. And also the price action that led into it is also very similar. Nice, strong, impulsive move to the upside, and then choppy consolidation with a big liquidation flush, but not much price movement to the downside. Just a small move down, but plenty of liquidations and resetting of funding, just like back here. So we can kind of think about that and say, okay, well, if we're going to do something similar, then we should be expecting we get something similar, some sort of consolidation, and then follow through to the upside out of there. So similar to back here, you see what I'm saying? That's the expectation right there. So 120K plus out of this without much more downside. That's going to be the idea right now with Bitcoin, based on the history, based on the liquidation event, this consolidation, and just our overall trend. Things are looking good for more upside. That's the kind of general thing that I'm saying here. Now, that's it for Bitcoin. Let's get on to Bitcoin dominance. So big change in Bitcoin dominance recently. Let's take a look at the weekly. This has been an 800-day uptrend on Bitcoin dominance. When Bitcoin dominance is in an uptrend, we see Bitcoin outperforming. We see that it kind of is the king of the crypto market, typically outperforming most altcoins. Not all, but there's always, out of the millions of altcoins we have, some of them are going to outperform Bitcoin during that period. But generally speaking, most altcoins were kind of lackluster compared to Bitcoin throughout this whole entire period of 800 days, Bitcoin dominance increasing. Okay, so we had a steady uptrend on the weekly. Let's take a look at that. So we put in this low here, and then we just go higher low after higher low after higher low after higher low after higher low, and you can see it, higher lows consistently holding all throughout this. What just changed is we just broke this uptrend, which means money should be flowing down into altcoins. And so with just this very first 3-week move to the downside where we broke the uptrend, we saw altcoins really taking off between 200% and up to 800%, such as on H-bar, in a matter of 3 weeks. But pretty much everything did 200%, some more than others. CVX, CRV, some of my spot holdings, these ones. H-bar, 800%, CRV, CVX, something like 500%, and then a couple 100% on the rest from just a 3-week period of downturn on Bitcoin dominance. So that kind of gives us a hint what is likely to come when we really start downtrending. And this is just the beginning. So the expectation, now that we've kind of broken this uptrend, is, okay, we're probably just topped on Bitcoin dominance. And so let's get into a real downtrend now with the Bitcoin dominance. Now, when we get this type of action, such as previously with this big downtrend, this big down move, we see altcoins go absolutely ballistic. Some just stupid, ridiculous numbers, crazy moves to the upside. We're talking 1,000%, 2,000%. Some of them will do 50x, 100x. That's not typical, but typically across the board, we get 1,000%, 2,000%. It's pretty normal for altcoins when we get that type of thing on Bitcoin dominance at this point in the cycle. So we're pretty much here. We're pretty much at the point where altcoins are nearing their time to shine and really outperform Bitcoin. So from here towards the cycle peak on Bitcoin, expecting that altcoins will massively outperform Bitcoin in terms of ROI. So Bitcoin might do a 2x from here, while altcoins do a 10, 20, 30, 40x from current prices. So place to be, in my opinion, is altcoins. Now, with Bitcoin dominance, let's talk about kind of lower end targets here. And I don't want to be too optimistic. So I think a lot of people might be calling for all the way down 35%, or maybe they're a little more conservative. They're calling for 38% for a low end target. I think we go even more conservative and just say, okay, we would be very happy if we just came down and created kind of a range. So if we just take a look at this, if we just turn this into a range like this, I think that I'd be plenty happy with, considering that just this 3-week move down already gave us such crazy runs on altcoins. So let's just say that we're going to be conservative and just expect that we're going into a range here with the Bitcoin dominance. That's still a significant move down, and I think that is a reasonable place to expect that we're going to head to, okay? Without getting too optimistic and expecting we're going to break down even below 35% again. Let's be a little more conservative and expect 41% perhaps, just on the conservative side. So that's kind of the expectation there. Nice big downtrend, and you can see obviously just visually that's a small move compared to all the way down at the bottom end of this, what we're going to assume might be a range for now. Okay, so that's kind of the idea with Bitcoin dominance, ready for massive altcoin outperformance. Now, guys, I haven't been making a lot of videos updating because I've been posting so much on X. So follow me on X, link in the description. You want to see how many of these massive moves we caught with the posts, the setups that I was posting. Right from the beginning of the starts of these pumps, we got in super early, and I was posting about it constantly, posting multiple times a day on X with these setups. H-bar was probably the biggest, best one that I've been talking about for quite some time, but also Filecoin, ARB, CRV, CVX, posted setups on all of those before multi-100% moves to the upside. Yeah, so follow me on X if you want to get all of these updates and see the setups, the things I'm looking at. Been absolutely crushing it, even if just the posts on here, been crushing these runs that we've seen over the last 4 weeks with just the posts that I've been sharing for the public here on X. So check it out if you're interested in keeping up to date with all my crypto ideas and trade setups and such. And you can scroll through, go back a while, go back a month or two, and you'll see just how great the entries were with these altcoins before they took off and just at the very beginnings of their uptrends. So that's it for this video, analyzing things. Do want to give a shout out to my affiliates. So guys, check out Bit2Next Exchange. If you need a crypto exchange that's no VPN, no KYC, allowing anyone in the world to use it, check out Bit2Next Exchange with my link in the description. They have new user bonuses, of course, like most exchanges, but they're allowing anyone globally, which is what sets them apart. They also have proof of reserves. They have an insurance fund, so your assets are safe on this exchange. And so been working with Bit2Next along with my other affiliates for a while, but this is the only one that's not going to do KYC or VPN. So if you can't access most crypto exchanges, definitely check out Bit2Next Exchange for trading crypto. They have tons of pairs. And of course, the main thing for them is that anyone can use it with no VPN or KYC. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.